nested class. Nested class, that means a class inside a class in another class. That means a class has another class as data member. Let us see an example. So we as usual we have a class A with integer data member and access functions. Now let us have class B with class A as its member, that is A, for example you can put it as R. Now this class B has class A object as its data member, and additionally it has some float data member also. So class B has two data members, one is float B, another one is class A object. Now how to handle this? Let us write access functions. So class B it takes now two arguments. One is say int x, one more is float y. Now here what it will do is it will call class A with x, constructor of class A with x. Now in this example we need to have one additional member function here in class A, that is set data function. Void set data int x. What it will do is set A to x, simple. This member function is required here, so that is used here. In the constructor it will call r dot, that is we have object r of class A, so r dot set data x, that will set the data of A class object. So we have A class object R, call set data function with x value, that will set the A class object value, and this y it can set directly like this. So this is how the construction works. Then show. First it has to display the A value, so first it will call A class show, that is r dot show. Then display its own value. So for showing it will first call the A class show, then its own value it will display. This is the show function. So how do we do it here? This is class B. So class B, suppose R, it has to specify an integer and a float. Show. So it displayed both 10 and 20.75. So 10 is the data of class A and 20.75 is the data of class B. So but exactly how it is done? When you call show function, first it calls the show function of class A, then it displays its own data. So let's review once. This is a nested class example. So class A as usual has an integer and access functions. It has set data also additionally. Class B has class A object R and its own data float value B. So in the constructor it will take two values, an integer value and a float value. Integer value to be set to the class A object. So it will call the set data function of the class A object to set the value of the integer. Then it will set the float values applied to its own variable directly. Then the show also, it has to call, since it doesn't have access to class A data directly, it has to call the show function of class A, then it will display its own data member. So this is what is going to happen. Now if you put the constructor messages, suppose in the constructor we display cout A constructor, display A constructor called, and in B display B constructor called. Now let us see now what happens. Okay, syntax error. Hope we have, yeah, that has run. B constructor called. Okay, A constructor is not called, it has to, okay. Here A object is AR, means here default constructor of A is being called, that we have not set up here. So let us write default constructor, it is there, but let us display a message that it has been called. Default, okay, constructor of call, A constructor called. So now what we have done here in main, we simply created a B object and showed it. When you run, first it will construct A object, then constructs B object. So first it is a nested class constructor, in the internal constructor it will call, first it will call constructor of A, then it will call its own constructor. That is the order of calling. But in this case what happened is, same thing happened, but which constructor of A is called? First we said AR, means we are calling the default constructor of A, we are not giving any parameters. Later for value setting we are using set data function. So default constructor of A is called, then the class B constructor is called. So this is how the nested classes are implemented. So A is now a member of class B. This is called nesting or containment class.